I would like to go on with the second talk from Hugo Batista. He is from the Oceanario de Lisboa. He's there now working as a marine biologist for the last 3 years and is responsible for the quarantine. He will also talk about training, but then on a very specific animal species, and it's Rhina anglistoma, a very interesting species. So please, Hugo.
So hi, good morning. I will share some information about our experience in keeping 2 specimens of Rhina anglistoma. For those that doesn't know, Rhina anglistoma, it's a shark ray that belongs to the same family as the well-known shark ray guitarfish. But as you can see from the pictures, they are quite different. Rhina anglistoma has a pronounced hair that resembles them to a prehistoric animal. In terms of common names, they are well known as bow-mouthed guitarfish, much due to the aspect of their mouth. In terms of geographic distribution, they are found most in all north coast of Australia, near to Japan and Indonesia. And in terms of habitat, they prefer to live in shallow waters, near to the coast and the coral reefs. They can live to 90 meters deep, but they prefer to live in depths far below. Talking about some biology facts, the maximum size recorded is 3 meters and the maximum weight recorded is 135 kilograms. And they are placental live breeders with heterotrophic nutrition, and each female can give birth to about 4 offsprings with 45 centimeters in length. The sexual maturity is reached later and the embryonic development is very slow, that results in a long period of resilience. In terms of nutrition, they prefer to eat benthical crustaceans such as shrimp and crab, but they also can feed on mollusks as squid or can eat small fish. In terms of conservation, the UCN Red List classified these animals as vulnerable, much due to the habitat loss, the pollution, and the bycatch. In terms of captivity data, little information is available, much due to the reduced number of specimens in aquariums or institutions. I have here a list adapted from 2007, and you can see that it was very few the aquariums that have this kind of animal. Speaking about what happened in Oceanario de Lisboa, the 2 specimens arrived in June 2007. They come in this kind of tanks, and they both look healthy at arrival. We evaluate the water quality of the transport, and it was very good, with the exception of the pH that was a little low. We made acclimatization for 2 hours, and during all the process, they didn't show any kinds of stress. We did not make any prophylactic treatment at arrival because we didn't have no records of how they were respond to the treatment, and to avoid causing more stress to them. In terms of feeding, we start to feed them in the next day, and we give them 200 grams of food. That was about 3% of the body weight, and we maintain this ratio until now. We start to give him shrimp in shell, cut in 2 or 3 pieces, but we remove the rostrum at the beginning to prevent causing any damage to the digestive system. We try to give them another kind of food, but they always want to eat shrimp. They didn't eat another kinds of food that we provide. So to make them eat another food, we need to take some actions. We adopt some measures. The first measure that we adopt was to disturb the food in 3 times. The first and the second meal was made by fish, squid, and other kinds of food, and only the 3rd meal by shrimp. The second measure that we adopt was to stipulate days of fasting and give them other kinds of food than wasn't shrimp after the days of fasting. These measures have little effect and make them eat another kinds of food. So we move on to the 3rd measure. The 3rd measure was to make composite meals prepared with mesh of glass shrimp. We put this mesh of glass shrimp in contact with squid and caplings so they can absorb the flavor of the glass shrimp. We adopt a 4th measure, and that was to prepare meals with squid and shrimp inside of them. And these 2 last measures have increased the rate of intake of some capelin and squid. However, these meals were prepared with shrimp and with glass shrimp, so it have a reduced nutrition variety. So it was important at this time to use vitamins to them. We use this kind of field records to control how they were eating the food. With the records, we were able to make this kind of graphs that shows the quantity of food supplied and the quantity of food of intake. We make this to all the type of food that we provide them. From the observation of the graphs, we could see that the shrimp is the food of choice of them, and other kinds of food like herring, sprat, or butter clam have an ingestion rate of 0%. The use of composite meals increased the rate of intake of some capelin and some squid. We were interested in monitoring the growth too, so we conduct monthly sessions of data collection to inquire the weight, the total length, and the length fin to fin. How did we do this? Well, we direct each animal inside the tank to a weighing unit. Then we measure the total length, the length fin to fin, and finally the weight of the individuals out of the water. I have here a sequence of 4 showing one of these sessions. We are putting the animal inside the unit and measuring the total length. Here the length fin to fin, and finally we are weighing the animal. We need to adapt the unit used to weigh and measure the animals because they were growing. First we start with using a net, a simple net. Then we move on to a box, and finally, because the animals were too big, we need to use a stretcher. We also use these kinds of field records to can see the values and make this kind of graphs. This graph shows the total length of the female and the male, and the length fin to fin of both of them. From the observation of the graphs, you could see that both species shows a constant growth along the months, and they have very similar values, with the exception of in January of 2008 that was a stagnation of the female growth. In the last month of this data, both individuals have the same length. In terms of weight, we made the same, and we could see that both specimens increase weight, but there occur a male, the weight of the male have a drop in January of 2008. In the last month of this data, they have the same weight. These data are just until November of 2008, because after this they were putting in the exhibit tank. Well, why did occur the stagnation of the male in January of 2008, and why did the male weight lost and the female stops to grow? Well, we think this occurred because of the persistent fasting days between December 2007 and January of 2008, and because the persistence of providing other types of food instead of shrimp. This data was very useful, and we need to change the feeding table, and we at this point increased the meals based on shrimp using vitamins. We also conducting sessions of training. We start these sessions in September of 2007, and the idea was to establish a condition of stimulus involving a target and the food. At the beginning, these sessions was only made at the surface. I have here a sequence of 4 showing this session. We use a common target. They see the target and comes to touch the target, and then we give food to them. Later, we start to make these sessions in diving too. Speaking now about other relevant information related to them in quarantine. They didn't make any quarantine treatments because there wasn't found any kind of parasites in the skin or on the fish, and because there were few records about how they were respond to the quarantine to apply. In January of 2008, we transferred them to a bigger tank so they could grow, but they stressed a lot during this transfer. This could be easily seen by the body color change to a pale gray tone with bright spots. They revealed the same behavior during a session of weight and measure in March 2008. Here I'm showing these pictures of them after the sessions of weight and measure, and we can see the pale tone of the skin. In the exhibit, we transferred the two exemplars a year and a half to the exhibit tank, but why just after this time? To increase the weight and size, to minimize risks to them of be eating or injury by the other animals. I have here the initial weight and length and the final weight and length, and we can see that both animals really get bigger with the time. We also wait so we could monitor their nutrition and conduct training sessions. Our exhibit tank have an octagonal form, approximately 1,000 square meters, about 5,000 cubic meters, 6 meters of depth, and the temperature range between 21.5 to 22, and it has around 54 species. The transfer to the exhibit tank. We catch each animal in the stretch and put them in the individual tanks, providing them oxygen. Here I have a picture showing the tank that we use to transport them. Then we put the tanks next to the exhibit tank and make an hour of acclimatization. During all this process, we were always monitoring the level of oxygen and the behavior of the animals. The introduction. After the acclimatization, we put the animals inside of exhibit tank, but we didn't free them. We put them inside cage first. Here, there's a sequence of photos showing the moment of the release. And here is a picture showing the cage that we use to put the animals. Here is the moment that we put the cage in the bottom, in the place that we could easily see them from the exterior. Another picture showing the same cage. And why did we use cage and didn't free the animals in the tank? Well, we need to monitor their behavior, how they were adapting to the new environment, and to them themselves see the new environment and be cautious about the new animals that will surround them. During 24 hours, we monitor their behavior and the respiratory rate and how they were swimming to see if there wasn't problems in free them. After these 24 hours, we free the animals. This is the picture showing the moment of the release of them in the tank. And after we released, they didn't show any signs of stress. They didn't show any interest in the other animals, and the other animals didn't show any interest in them, with the exception of some gropers that get very close but causing no harm to them. And both individuals respond immediately to the target. In the present, we are conducting feeding sessions with the target, the big one, bigger than the using grinding. And in the exhibit tank, they start to eat other kinds of food. Here, I will show you a video of one of these sessions of feeding in the exhibit tank. We are using a target to conduct the animals to the surface and put the food inside their mouth. We also use the target to conduct and track and guide the animals to the surface, so we could feed them from the platform, so we could hold sessions of weight and measure in the platform, and to perform any care needed. This last one has been very useful at the present because both animals have a little wound in the upper edge of the caudal fin. Here I have a video showing one of the sessions that we conducting to make the treatment of the animals. This is the stretcher used to put the animal. Here we are prepared the treatment. It's a ointment composed by methoxyl and madacazole. Here we are preparing the chlorhexidrina that you put in the wound too. This is the moment when the animal is attracted to the surface. Here we need to restrict them so we could put the treatment in the wound. You could see the wound in the caudal fin. We first put the chloroxidrina. And then the ointment. We also use corega to fix the ointment to the skin of the animal. And that's it. In terms of future issues, we would like to continue to monitor their development, conducting sessions of weight and measure, and create the conditions for the predation to occur, and who knows, maybe having new specimens. I would like to thank to all that make this work possible, and of course to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hugo. Are there any questions? I have a small question.
Okay.
If you learn them to attract with this yellow ball, normally for feeding, and suddenly you bring them up towards a very stressful situation where you have to treat them, what's happening the next day?
In the next day, they come with the target again. We can make these sessions, we make these sessions 1 time for a week, the sessions of healing, and 3 times for a week, the feeding sessions, and they always respond. Right? We can make today a sessions of healing, and next day the sessions of feeding, they come always to the target.
Perfect.
Yes.
Thank you. Any other questions? No? Okay, thank you for your presentation.